Chris Omalo, Member of Parliament for Kiminini constituency. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
We have Senator Isaac Mora joining us via way of Skype. Good morning, Senator.
Morning.
And then we have Gladys Boss, the woman representative for Uasin Gishu, joining us via way of Skype as well. Good morning.
Good morning.
Right, and we are expecting to be joined by Gladys Wanga, the Member of Parliament and woman representative for Homa Bay County. As soon as she is ready to join us, we'll be in a position to bring her on board. But I want us to begin on that note of the COVID-19 and the trends that we are seeing. I don't know whether the same is being reported in your counties. Is there is there a fear that this spike might be affecting the people in your areas directly? Starting with you, Dr. Chris Omalo.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me here today. In fact, in my county of Trans Nzoia, it is actually worse. I remember in the first phases, when you looked at the positivity rate at that time, it was actually less than 5%. But as we speak right now, the Trans Nzoia County has been recording new infections to the high of 60s. So this is to tell you that something must be done urgently, and it's something that is cutting across the counties. I think it was a big problem, and it was a big mistake for the schools to have opened. When you look at the level of preparedness when it comes to schools, majority of the schools were not well prepared. Even when to take a walk, I took a walk in my constituency, and you find that some of the schools, when it comes to the issues of social distancing, when it comes to the issues of sanitization, when it comes to the issue of masks, the kids do not have the masks. And the minister, Professor Magoha, was very clear. He said that those children from backgrounds that cannot afford, that the ministry is going to avoid, I mean, to provide this. We've not seen this. When it comes to the hospitals, the positivity rate we've seen is going up exponentially. Yesterday, we've seen it went to the extent of 13 point something percent. I think the Minister of Health, I don't know where the CS Mutai Kagwe has gone to. I think they should close schools immediately, because as per the WHO recommendations, when they opened these schools, it was an issue of when the positivity rate is less than 5% consistently for the 2 weeks. That is when you can be able to reopen. But you realize we reopened before it was confirmed to be 2 weeks. But now that the positivity rate has gone very high, I think the government should move with speed and close schools immediately. Otherwise, whatever we are doing is disaster to our children.
Okay, all right. And I'm looking at the statistics and seeing that Trans Nzoia County, where you come from, you have 536 infections so far reported. Of course, it would appear higher than quite a number of counties across the country. But also, there's a county that is still reporting high numbers, and that is Kiambu. Of course, the rate of increase has declined over the past several weeks, but still at 3,025 infections so far reported in Kiambu. Isaac Mora, what would you say you've been able to see? Because we hear reports of hospitals are full, the COVID-19 wards are full. Is this the story in Kiambu County, and what do you think needs to be done quickly to really salvage the little that we can at the moment?
Yeah, Sam, I think people have, they no longer fear COVID-19. So people don't even care. I think they say the problems they are facing are bigger than COVID-19. And so therefore, they are very particular on just going on with their issues. The jams are back on the roads, and so therefore, I mean, it's extremely difficult to convince people now to take measures the way they were taking measures before. And I think that is actually the tragedy, because by the end of the day, I mean, nobody seems to care anymore. You can't. I mean, the otherness that came with the COVID-19 has been lost. I mean, people are already saying now the year is coming to an end. January, children have to go back to school properly. They don't have school fees. So, and also, let me just be honest with you. After monies were stolen at the Ministry of Health, people no longer believe, because there was a correlation between the reduction of the deaths and the infections around the time the amplification of the monies that were stolen at KEMSA, it became very public.
Right.
So people tend to imagine it's just another hype to eat more. So that is a tragedy. Okay. And also the fact that it appears generally within Africa, the deaths are much lower, and so people think this is still a Western-based or Chinese-based pandemic. So all of those are coming into play, and people have to survive, by the way.
Okay, all right. And of course, unfortunately, we are receiving the reports from Mombasa of a deputy principal, the principal of Tononoka High School, rather, where 11 teachers have tested positive for coronavirus, and the principal has died of COVID-19. And this is spreading every other day, because yesterday, Honorable Boss, we reported 18 deaths, the highest in a long time. Uasin Gishu County, I'm saying that now there are 1,354 infections so far reported. There's a day just over, I believe over the weekend, that Uasin Gishu had among the highest numbers of new infections. What's going wrong in Uasin Gishu, and what do you think should be done within the short term?
Good morning, Sam, and thank you for having me. I think what has happened in Uasin Gishu is exactly what's happened across the country. There's a lack of public trust in the government's pronouncement or information about COVID-19. Because initially when the government spoke, people trusted them, trusted the government. And every time we had about deaths, we had about COVID, we had about people who had died of COVID. They were telling us the protocols on how to bury those who had died of COVID, but we never heard about anyone who had survived COVID or was still alive and had COVID. And then immediately after that, we had about the COVID corruption money. And then so after that, anything that the government had announced or the precautions, nobody believed it. People believed that the COVID numbers were only hyped up to allow certain privileged persons connected to the government to be able to get contracts and tenders over this COVID issue. So unfortunately, we lost trust in the government and stopped listening. People lowered their guard, hence the reason why we ended up having extra infections. And remember, places like Uasin Gishu and Trans Nzoia are a transit zone. People are moving back and forth because of all the transportation that occurs in that region. So that is the challenge. And I think what we should be thinking as a country and as a government is how do we restore public trust in any pronouncements made over COVID by the Ministry of Health. But as we say that also, you can imagine how parents felt, and many parents spoke to me in Uasin Gishu. When Magoha says that parents should pay for their own masks, they remember very clearly when CS Magoha came to Uasin Gishu County to the Rift Valley Textiles Company, Rivertex, and launched the production of masks to be given out in schools.
Right.
Where are those masks? So how do you expect people to believe anything that the government says now?
But unfortunately,
when they saw the launch of the masks, government paid for them, and now we have no masks.
Unfortunately, Honorable Bose, of course, many Kenyans, like Senator Mora said, have dropped the guard. They don't see it as such a threat as it were when the pandemic started. Several residents, I was actually in Uasin Gishu last week, and I saw that many residents there are not even wearing the masks, and when they do, they are not doing it appropriately. What must we do now? I mean, with or without the government, what must we do to ensure that we don't lose our loved ones to this pandemic? Because it's there and it's costing lives. That's what I'm saying.
Usually, when the government gives any pronouncements or gives any guidelines, people normally take that to heart and follow the guidelines provided by the government. But because the government has been dishonest and has been stealing money allocated for COVID cases, people have lost trust and therefore don't believe them and therefore lowered their guard. So we've got to restore public trust back so that people can listen to us. Even as a leader, when I had to speak and tell people, let's be careful. You know, there is a resurgence of the COVID cases. We must not lower our guard. People said, I think the government was lying to us. So the government has a responsibility, and so does the Ministry of Health, to restore public confidence so that any guidelines they give are believable. Right now, people don't believe them. So we have to restore public trust.
Okay, all right. I don't know whether you agree with that.
Yeah, I do agree with what my colleagues have mentioned, because right now, when you talk to the people, they have no trust on what the government is saying, particularly on matters of COVID. We don't see the energy Mutahi Kagwe had before. And people have been asking these questions. Are these hyping this for the sake of these COVID billionaires? So really it's the responsibility of the government to ensure that people trust, and the information that they give to the public must be with precision. But what I want to tell my fellow Kenyans, we as leaders, we should continue talking to the citizens that we must continue to sanitize, to observe social distance, and we must put on masks. And the Ministry of Education should move with speed and provide these masks. I want to thank I think the government of America. I'm told the ambassador of America yesterday was in Trans Nzoia County, and they donated about 80,000 masks. Because Trans Nzoia County, you move to some markets, you move to some areas, people don't know about this issue of masks. You go to funerals, people don't put on masks. You know, so it is actually the responsibility of the government to ensure whatever information they give out, people should be able to trust. But the moment there's mistrust, whatever you say, Kenyans are doing the contrary. So it's the responsibility.
The political class.
Yeah, and we've been seeing the political class leading by example. I mean, having meetings without observing the social distance. So whatever we say, we should be able to practice.
Okay, all right. And of course, we leave it at that. We continue to monitor the numbers and hoping that people can take personal responsibility, but also the guidance that would come from the political class that we are speaking to this morning and the government. But let us now turn to what happened yesterday at the Bomas of Kenya, the unveiling of the BBI report. And I want us to begin by doing some study on the body language that we witnessed yesterday between the president and his deputy. Watch. All right, so those are the images of the president and his deputy. Of course, a lot had gone on by the time that they were shaking hands and joking about the several things that they were saying. We will listen to some of the voices that they had yesterday later on. But I want to begin with you, Senator Mwaura. So when we see this, we sort of get confused because this is coming after several months of these two exchanging words against each other, whether directly or indirectly through their supporters or by themselves. What did you make of what we witnessed yesterday, including the president saying that the deputy president has been aware of the Building Bridges initiative all along, and now getting to that point that they are even shaking hands? You see the attempt of Raila Odinga to work with the president, but then again the president pushes him forward and then brings the deputy president, even pushes him forward. What does that all tell us?
Well, I don't know why you're reading too much. I think there could just be some happenstance. The moment there was basically not to make sure that there is tensions. What I think was revealing was basically the way people spoke on, on the floor of Bomas of Kenya. And I think I don't want to read much personally. I mean, I think we have seen the president before wearing the same suit, the same ties with his deputy. They have campaigned together for a long time, so they know each other. They know each other. I think, and even Right Honorable Raila Odinga, I think the president was trying to play a very tough balancing act between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. In fact, personally, I was anticipating he would have told them, now can you come here and shake hands, so that then they can also build their own bridges. But of course, that did not happen. So my take is that, yes, it's just a question of just trying to put the situation the way it was.
Right, and Honorable Boss.
And also just to add, remember the president said that the first handshake was with William Ruto in 2013. So he was extending it now to also saying that by bringing Raila Odinga, it is an extension of the same. So I think he was just trying to play a statesman, in my opinion.
Okay, we'll listen to that later on. But Honorable Boss, of course, looking at that, do you think it was an extension of the handshake between the deputy president and now getting to extend to the former prime minister? And what do you make of the body language that we saw yesterday?
I must say I'm not a good reader of body language, and I don't care much for it. What I do is look at your own actions and the way you conduct yourself throughout the year. So your body language at one event is inconsequential as far as I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the way you spoke, the way you delivered your speech. And I'm very clear. I remember that I watched the Deputy President speak in a very dignified manner. He basically gave us a masterclass on what dignified discourse is. He said, this is my opinion, these are my reasons, and I am willing to be convinced otherwise. That is a civilized discussion. That is what I read, the way the person delivered and gave their message. So rather than look at the body language, I'd look at the way Raila Odinga spoke, the way Atwoli spoke, the way the president spoke. That is what we should be reading as Kenyans, because they were there to give us a message. We don't need to read the body language. Let's just look at the exact words that they uttered, the exact words that they delivered, the exact words that they said that tells me as a Kenyan, did they read the report or did they not read the report? Are they speaking just flowery language to sugarcoat what they think the report is, or did they truly interrogate the report? That's the way I'd look at it. But even speaking about body language, when I listen to everything that was said about the BBI, in fact, BBI is the most polarizing document I have ever seen. It is not uniting Kenyans. It is going to polarize us even further. That is all it has done. It's not a unifying document.
Yet students of communication will tell you that the words that you utter actually contribute a very small percentage of the message that you're conveying, but others will say that the body language and the non-verbal communication will really be instrumental in judging what you're saying. What do you think, Dr. Chris Omalo?
It is always said that pictures speak more words than whatever we say. So whatever happened yesterday, personally myself, I was surprised. I was surprised because I've attended meetings. Last time when they were doing the first launch of the BBI in Bomas, I was there. The body language between the president and deputy wasn't very good. Last week when there were prayers in State House, I was there. The body language was not that good. And yesterday, we were surprised. And from the look of those pictures, it clearly shows the president and the deputy had a prior discussion. Remember in yesterday's newspaper, it was saying the deputy president was going to meet the demons. And the deputy president came prepared. And in my own thinking, the president must have talked to the deputy president to assure him that everything going to be okay. And from the look of things yesterday, the president is smart. He is determined. He wants to bring these two people together, the deputy president and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. He's trying to bring a delicate balance for him to achieve his objective. The president is very, very determined. And yesterday, from the look of things, much that the deputy president, whatever he said, you realize that he was taking it, everything was easy. First, I want to condemn the heckling of the deputy president. This should not have happened. I mean, you can disagree with someone, but if honorable members come and shout here and there, I don't think this is the way we should go. Let the person speak and make your own decisions. We want to condemn whatever that yesterday's heckling, all manner of heckling was not that very good. But the president is being smart here. He wants to bring the two people together and he wants to achieve his objective. So the person here who is successful, who is smart, is the president. And let's not rule out reconciliation between the president and the deputy, because many people have been advancing their agenda to be able to achieve by talking ill. We've been a lot of antagonistic. But from the look of things, the way the president spoke yesterday, and he even referred the speech that my party leader Wetangula said, that this is a wonderful idea, but let's get more ideas to make it better. And the president welcomed ideas. He said he wanted to make the document, to improve on this document. He was welcoming and he wanted inputs from all sorts of corners.
I am not sure whether that can be the take home from what he was saying, because at the end of the event he was asking people that you're going to pass this BBI. But all the same, Senator Mwaura, is Dr. Wamalwa's position here wishful thinking or a possibility in the coming days within the Jubilee Party?
In terms of, are you asking in terms of the president and the deputy?
He's saying that you are seeing some possible reconciliation between the two leaders. I mean, we have known their positions that are pretty divergent.
No, I mean, Sam, honestly, can you actually even ask that question? Because who would have ever thought that Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta would work together? Who would have even thought that William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta would come back together in 2013 after they went their separate ways in 2007? I mean, there are no permanent enemies or friends in politics. It's only interests. And I think for me, the president is trying to say, can we stop our ambitions for a moment, look at this document, then later on we can compete, we can agree to disagree and all of that. So basically, it's not cast in stone. I don't think you can say these are sworn enemies. And the president yesterday said that after Raila came on board with the BBI, William Ruto decided to run away the different direction with Everton. So basically, he's just trying to be a statesman. I know it's a bit hard for him. He was very candid about the issue of the tribal alliances that have formed the bedrock of our state, yet we pretend to be nationalists. That is the tough balancing. And so the question that then arises is, and by the way, William Ruto made his case very clearly. I mean, and I am happy that he actually kept his calm against a rather hostile crowd. It was really unnecessary for them to do what they did. Okay. I remember I was sitting there with Akina Kalembe and Ndila, and they were trying to shout, and I was telling them, please, I mean, this is not how leaders are supposed to behave. You don't just start there as a member of parliament and you start shouting. I mean, it's very indignifying. Let us also agree to disagree. But I also want to thank a section of the crowd that also was in agreement to listen. There are people who made a lot of sense yesterday, Sam. William Ruto, Deputy President, Musalia Mudavadi, made a lot of sense as well. Because, you see, you can't just come to have a team of sycophants, people who are just there to say yes, yes, yes. No. This is a national conversation, and I think President Uhuru Kenyatta invited us to have that national conversation in Kisii. We, for example, people with disabilities, this document, my brother, this one has taken away all of our gains. I know my sister Ashura there made a comedy by asking Uhuru to marry her. That's funny. But please, let me make it very clear. People with disabilities have lost in BBI. All of the gains that we made in 2010 Constitution, as currently practiced, have been lost. Right. And so we need a room where we can sit down and say these are the proposals, but then what is the way forward? Otherwise, currently, when I heard some people saying, we don't even need to read, we need to pass as it is, I think that is not the conversation the president asked for.
All right, and Senator, we'll get back to the content of the BBI report, but first let's listen to what President Uhuru Kenyatta said in as far as the involvement of DP Ruto in the entire conversation and the planning for BBI.
I also want to thank my deputy president, because all in all, along that path, I kept him abreast of what was going on. He was part and parcel. That's the truth, I'm not lying. Ask him, he's here. He was part and parcel. In fact, he helped me identify some of the wazees I just mentioned here. Yeah. Hii ni ile ya kuhandover, unajua? Si ndio? Inaitwa relay. Unakimbia ule mwingine anakugojea pale, anatakikana kukugojea ndio ashike aendelee, si ndio? Lakini sasa my brother William hapa amepinduka, anakimbia nyuma. Nikasema mosmos, tutafika tu.
So, Honorable Boss, you're saying that you'd rather listen to what leaders are saying, but that's a perfect opportunity of what they're saying and what they're doing. I mean, tell me, what do you think?
First of all, I want to correct Uhuru Kenyatta. As somebody who comes from an athletic background, in relay, there is something called the takeover zone, which is 20 meters long, where it allows the athlete to be able to run backwards another 10 meters to be able to pick up momentum. So there is 10 meters back and 10 meters forward that the athlete is allowed to receive the baton. So please, he used the wrong analogy. He doesn't know anything about the relay race.
Where do those 20 meters begin in this particular race?
The 20 meters is from the point at which the new race begins. So you can do 10 meters back and 10 meters forward. So you're allowed to go back 10 meters and start running so that you are able to pick up momentum and you can be given the baton 10 meters ahead. It's called the 20-meter relay. It's called the takeover zone. So I think Uhuru Kenyatta should go and check his notes on how the relay race rules work.
But
that was the wrong analogy.
Honorable Boss, let's talk about what he is insinuating, because it appears like he is terming the Deputy President of being impatient to really succeed the President, and that he was involved even in the composition of the BBI team. Then one wonders, why would he be so against what has been going on for the past more than 2 years now?
No, I don't think I know anything about who being against what has been going on or being pro that. Like I said, I'm simply commenting on the exact words that I had. As to whether he consulted the Deputy President, didn't consult him, or discussions, I am not privy to that information. I only comment on facts that are within my knowledge. So I'm simply commenting on his analogy of the relay. What I'm saying is that if he is talking about, if we are to look at relay in the exact way it's supposed to work, I think the athlete is never supposed to have a stationary moment. They must have the ability to be able to receive the baton and take flight immediately. So if he is talking about the Deputy President behaving any manner, I think the Deputy President just knows relay better than him.
That's interesting, but again, this is a political relay of sorts, not really an athletic relay. So, Dr. Chris Omalwa, what do you make of all these sentiments that the DP was all aware, all through, but then again, he's being impatient with how the race is supposed to be handled?
Yesterday's conversation, the President wanted to show that there was full disclosure in terms of his relationship with the Deputy President. And when you look at that committee, the members, there's a Major Say who comes from Rift Valley, who is very much respected. And it shows that there was Deputy President's input in terms of selection of Say, who is very respected. And what the President was trying to put across is, whatever people have been talking about when it comes to this issue of BBI, that his Deputy President has always been in the picture. And contrary to what Honorable Shole is saying, when the matter of relay comes in, the issue of 10 meters front and back is immaterial. It's irrelevant in this case. But what the President wanted to put across was that him is the President, and he's waiting once his term ends, he hands over to the Deputy President. But what he was trying to imply is the Deputy President has been impatient in terms of he has started maybe the early campaigns or whatever the case. I think that is the message that the President was trying to put across. So maybe the difference started coming in when the Deputy President could not maybe wait. Because remember, the President had said, let's hold our horses. And I want to salute His Lordship, Dr. Ongida, the Bishop. He said it very clearly. Let's pause the hustle and let's pause the reggae. It's actually the same message. So the President has been trying as much as possible to bring the two antagonists together so that you unify this country, so that we move forward.
Right.
So in a nutshell, the President is determined. He's trying to play a delicate balance that all of us, we need everyone. Let's please move together as a one Kenya. And he had built bridges with the Deputy President, and he wants to extend this as a package with the Raila Amolo Odinga. Remember, there was some times back, I think 2 or so years back, when you were at Safari Park during the National Prayer Breakfast, the President made actually the Deputy President and Raila Amolo Odinga to shake hands. So the President actually means well. The issue is we need to support the President to see that this is something which is unified, so that we have, in the long run, when we have this BBI, let the document come out that will place the interests of the common mwananchi first. Okay. And I do support the President. Okay, all right. Of course, we can have as many opinions as the number of us in here or out there, including Senator Mora and Honorable Boss. But all the same, I want us to make a progress and look at the content of the BBI report, which among other things is proposing to expand the executive. If you can take a look at that, to see the creation of the position of a Prime Minister. 2 deputy prime ministers will come from the cabinet. There will also be
renaming of cabinet position holders from cabinet secretaries to cabinet ministers, and the Attorney General is to function as a minister. But there's something that DP Ruto said yesterday in as far as whether this is going to resolve the question of the winner takes all. Let's listen.
Now, Professor Adam Solo, you have said that in this proposal, we will have the president with his running mate, deputy president. They will win, or we have candidates, they will win an election, and then the president will appoint the prime minister and the two deputies from the winning coalition. And then we will have the runner-up being the leader of opposition. Now, no problem, it doesn't matter who it is. I have no problem. You know, let us not personalize, there is no problem. Now, the question I am asking myself, have we sorted out the winner-take-all question? Oh, is that so? So, the president from his side, like for example here, President Uhuru Kenyatta, I am here, Kimunya is the prime minister, because he's the leader of majority. We have Jimmy Angwenyi, who is our deputy, as a deputy prime minister, and maybe Maoka Maore as one of the deputies. So, what happens to the whole NASA brigade, together with Musalia and all these other people?
And Senator Maura, he raises a pertinent question of how inclusive that would be, because it appears that the only thing that would change at the moment is that one Honorable John Mbadi would become the leader of official opposition, but all the other positions will be taken by people within the cabinet, whether they are picked from different communities to make them as inclusive as possible, but does not really deal with the inclusivity of political parties.
Sam, I think there's an issue about, there are actually two issues. First is the issue of a president who appoints the prime minister and the deputy prime ministers and can actually sack them. Mm-hmm. I think personally that is giving too much power to a president. I think that is a Tanzanian model. Let the prime minister and the two deputies, let them be actually facing only vote of no confidence in parliament. Mm-hmm. Number two, it is also not true to say that you can only have people from maybe one side of the ethnic question, because DP was giving the example of Kimunya, Maore, you know, it sounds like it is Mount Kenya region, you know, that kind of thing. Before you form your coalition, you will have told people who is your prime minister. You remember the situation we had in 2002, and also you can see there is always some semblance of coalitions. Even in 2013, we had Uhuru, Ruto, Gilu, and Balala. So you have to have the face of Kenya. Mm-hmm. However, it's very difficult for you to have it in the constitution by saying the 5 must come from different ethnic communities, because then you will be going against the same constitution which says that you will not discriminate somebody on the basis of their ethnicity. It is required that then that informal, you know, I have said it before and I want to repeat that politics is the informality that constitutes the formal. So basically then what you are going to make sure is when people see that they are represented, it helps in proper coalition forming, so that people know before you go to the ballot who you are going to elect. What we need to have is a guarantee that, you know, after 6 months every election, these coalitions start, you know, crumbling. Jubilee is a perfect example. CORD was another one, and you can go on and on and on. So you don't want to have somebody, just because tomorrow you are no longer their favorite cup of tea, they sack you. I think that is not acceptable. So we need to tie it up, if at all. Otherwise, currently, all of the powers are with the president.
Okay, all right. And Honorable Boss, of course, you've already aired your opposition to some of the provisions in the Constitution. But looking at the entire question of inclusivity...
Which Constitution?
Sorry, not Constitution, but the Constitutional Amendment proposals. My apologies about that. But looking at the proposals to create these new positions, first of all, what's your opinion about them, and how do you suggest that we resolve the question of inclusivity moving forward?
Okay, on inclusivity, if I look at the current proposals under the BBI report, they are not curing winner takes it all. They are actually making it winner takes everything. And nothing is going to be left behind. That is the reality. If you look at the way they've designed it, you will have an imperial president. Our current constitution was designed to separate the executive, the judiciary, separate, and the legislature. But if you look at it, the president, because they are able to pick the prime minister and the deputies, then they are able to be involved on what's happening in parliament. If it is the judiciary, they even have an executive hand within the Judicial Service Commission, where we had removed the executive through the ombudsman. And then they will also even have a hand in the IEBC, because the big parties, or the big boys, as people call them, are going to be able to select the referees who are the commissioners. And then, so they've put their hand everywhere. Really, that is what has happened. But even as we say that, when you talk about the constitutional amendments that have been proposed under the BBI, the question we must ask ourselves is, the BBI report actually states, I remember reading it, here it is, in Annex E, Roman 2 page, it says the bills were drafted by the steering committee, numbering 12, which were intended to give effect to the constitutional changes that have been proposed. The question we should be asking as Kenyans is, who clamored and requested for those constitutional changes? Number two, the way we make our legislation in our country, it has to emanate from the ground. People who have interacted with that legislation should be able to say, this is not working, this is where it's wrong, and this is the mischief we intend to cure. And then through a petition or a legislative recommendation, which is subjected then to public participation across the country, then that is how you develop a legislative proposal. But this legislation that was drafted by a group of less than 50 people in some room somewhere, and then brought to us and told, these are the pieces of legislation that they are required to, this is the constitutional amendment that we have proposed, and these are the legislation that give effect to it. Even the proposals, the laws that are in the current constitution, we were given time frames. Kenyans interacted with it. They went through proper public participation, proper due process, and then Kenyans were able to embrace it. So first of all, the methodology that has been done for the BBI, and this I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone, this is my own personal opinion, the methodology is convoluted and illegal. That is not how you make legislation. If I look at the current 2010 constitution, it took 20 years of clamoring by Kenyans to the point we were able to narrow down and say, these are the contentious issues and these are the non-contentious issues.
Okay.
In this one, two people told us on the steps of Harambee House that we now have 9 points. We are going to have a committee. Here are the membership, and they are going to come around the country. And that is why I would like to challenge, so that I can be able to comment even more detailed about it. I want to see the minutes, the daily minutes, not the list of names of the people who are involved in making this process.
Okay.
I am speaking as a lawyer, and give me a minute, Sam, so that I can break down to Kenyans what is in this BBI report. I know it looks like a very big, complex document. It's not. First of all, you have the first part, which is the introduction, the executive summary, and a few cross-cutting issues. Then you have the main report, which is going from page 1 to page 55. Then you have Annex B, C, and then there is no D, but there is an E and there is an E2. 2 E's, but I'm assuming one of the E's is supposed to be the D part.
Right.
Really? So Kenyans should ignore the document E, the last E, because that is just attachments of gazette notices and the names of the people who are involved and the societies that made the presentation. And then we have the one that tells us about, gives us the draft bills. They've given us draft bills. And let me give one example of the Health Commission draft bill. That health draft bill, when you look at it, it's actually a frame of how a law enacting, the framework of a law enacting independent commission is drafted without any meat in it. It's what we used to teach students at the university on how to draft a law. So when you look at it, it's not actually a bill. It doesn't tell us, when we talk about, people are talking about health, we want to know how everyone will have access to universal health care. And we want to know exactly how the health workers are going to be taken care of. None of that is in that bill. That bill tells us how to appoint the commissioner, how the members of the commission, what qualifications are required, that they must file annual reports, which are standard practice. So that is a frame of a bill. It is not a bill. So they should stop fooling Kenyans.
Okay, all right, Honorable Boss, and we need to take a short break, but in return, I'll be taking the views of one Dr. Chris Omalo and Senator Mora specifically on those proposals of amending the Constitution and what should happen, because there appears that there are several areas that are contentious. So should the constitutional amendment proposal go to be taken to the next process, or it has to be reviewed? You have that after the break. You can text us your views on 22422 or tweet us at Citizen TV Kenya. Sam Gituku, the hashtag to use is Daybreak. We're back in a moment.